next time, let's not tell people how great Byron's going to be before he speaks. That's just a request. I will tell you, Father Wismer came into my office a couple months ago and said, so Dr. Collins and Father Bates would like you to speak at Episcopal School Sunday. And he's like, would you be willing to do that? And I'm like, so the rector of the church and the head of school and the senior chaplain are all asking me. I didn't feel like, I felt like saying no would be saying no to God. So I said yes. And I'm here today to tell you that there was a rumor in my high school that I used to date Beyonce Knowles. And the thing about rumors is that they take on a life of their own. Once they get started, it's hard to tell how much they will grow or how far they will go. I grew up here in Houston, Texas, and this rumor started in 9th grade when I attended McDonald 35 Senior High School in New Orleans, Louisiana, home of the Ron Eagles. Now, this Beyonce rumor, I was maybe sophomore year when it got started, and it stuck around for so long, this rumor, that at the senior prom, a young man with a 1-inch afro, perfectly shaped, with the taper fade along the temples and in the back, approached me wearing a tuxedo with a blue vest with the collarless, because that was like the 90s. Yes, y'all know. Anyway, so he approached me with pride, like beaming and glowing, ready to dap me off, hug, and I was like, what is going on? I knew him from a track meet that we attended earlier in the school year. I knew that had he attended McDonald 35 Senior High School where I attended, that he would have been about 2 or 3 tiers above me in the social hierarchy. And yet he was coming up eager to greet me, almost in awe. And he came to me, he's like, are you the dude that used to date Beyonce? To which I wanted to say, I mean, look around. Who else could it be? Do any of these other dudes look like they could have dated Beyonce? Except I didn't actually date Beyonce. And he later found out that, so I had been in a room with Beyonce, which for him was enough. He was just like, so you were in a room with Beyonce? I was like, well, I mean, it was a convention center. It was a big room, but yeah. The thing about rumors is that they take on a life of their own. And part of the reason why he was so excited to see me, even after I went from being the dude who dated Beyonce to the dude that was in a room with thousands of other people along with Beyonce, like that was still enough for him to think that I was cooler than I really was. Because he didn't know me well enough to know that I wasn't really as cool as he thought. But both of us were trying, because the rumor, I may have started the rumor. Being from Houston, I had more info about her than anybody at the high school. And so I was like, they're not going to be able to disprove this, because anything they're going to know, I'm going to know more. So it'll last. And then it did. Made it all the way to another school in town, to another student. But we were excited because we were attaching on to someone else's fame, someone else's privilege, someone else's power, someone else's status. I don't know what it is about that popularity, that fame, that status that is so intoxicating. I don't know why it feels so good to sit at the table with the cool kids. In steps Jesus. In Matthew chapter 24, before the one that we read today, Jesus walks out of the temple and his disciples start asking him questions. He's like, this thing won't even be standing. This is about 3 days before his crucifixion. And then he starts talking about the end times because they had questions, because this idea at the time was there's going to be a Messiah, a Christ, who is going to come. And he's going to do something great. And the disciples, some of them, they always had these arguments about who was going to be the greatest. And they were excited to be around Jesus, in part because they thought if he comes and he is who we think he is, then he's going to come in glory and he's going to come in power. And if we are with him, then we are going to, by association, be powerful and glorious and strong and popular. And then Jesus does this thing that he does. He starts to tell some stories. And in this one, he tells a parable. And the thing about parables is they usually come with a twist. Twist number one, Jesus describes himself as a king. That's not the twist. The twist is he's a king who's hungry. You're like, well, kings, they would get hungry. It's like he's a king who didn't have clothing. He's a king who was thirsty and didn't have water. He was a king who was sick and didn't have anyone to visit. He was a king who was in prison and no one came there to see about him. That's the twist number one. The second twist is this. He says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And then he said to others, those on his left, remember that in the passage? Well, we didn't get that far, but it comes right after, and the pattern of it is exactly the same, except he says it this way. He's like, when I was hungry, you fed me not. When I was thirsty, you didn't give me anything to drink. And I imagine, I'll tell you this is year 3 at St. Francis for me, as a division head. And students, I'm learning something about middle school. There are some excuses that students give when they end up in my office in trouble. And they're not very creative. It's the same ones every time. And so if you are in trouble and you have to come to my office, take note of these 3, because they won't work. Okay. Third excuse that Dr. Williams hears most often. Everybody else was doing it. So, yes, everybody was using that profane word. They all are. All the kids use it. They're all using it. I am in trouble because I was just doing the thing that everyone else was doing. So you can't hold me accountable for it because they're all doing it. And if you punish me, it's unfair because everybody is doing it. Really? Everybody? And maybe they are. Excuse number 2. Here it is. Somebody else made me do it. I love this one. It's one of my favorites. Because I hit him because he hit me first. Right? Well, he didn't hit me exactly, but he looked like he was going to hit me. The teacher made me do it because the teacher was being unfair, and so because she was being unfair, I had to, as a point of principle, I had to correct her. Sure, it wasn't the time, but I couldn't let it go. It's the teacher's fault. Somebody else made me do it. But number 1, this is the one. I didn't know. That's the one. That's the one I get most often. When a child comes to my office for getting in trouble, it is usually here it is. I didn't know. I didn't know that was a bad word. I didn't know the homework was due. Well, wasn't it posted on Veracross? Yes, but I didn't know. Didn't you write it in your planner? Yes, but I didn't know. Didn't the teacher say it? Didn't the teacher make you go on the screen? I didn't know. I didn't know that was inappropriate. I didn't know that would hurt his feelings. He was crying. Yeah, but I thought we were just joking. I didn't know. Turns out this is not unique to middle schoolers at St. Francis. I mean, if I get pulled over, was it a school zone? I didn't know that it was a school zone. And do you hear it in this passage? Jesus says, when I was hungry, you did not feed me. But we didn't know. How was I supposed to know that was you? You didn't have on a t-shirt that said hey, I'm Jesus, feed me. So how am I supposed to know that was you? And then I read in Psalm 50, it says, if I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world and all that is in it is mine. Do I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Jesus is saying, God is saying in that particular passage, if I were hungry, I wouldn't ask you for food. And so I'm confused. Jesus, like, how was I supposed to know? Like, I've been reading scripture. You said you're all sufficient. You can make something out of nothing, right? Those things that don't exist jump into existence when you say to be. Let there be light. It just comes into existence because you said so. And so how would you need anything from me? I didn't know. That brings us to our third twist. He says, the extent to which you did it unto the least of these, you did it unto me. Much ink has been spilled in the Christian community about who these people are, the least of these. Some say it would be Christians who are being persecuted in the end times as we get to the Great Tribulation. Some say it would be just the poor in general. Some people say it would be anybody who is an outsider, an outcast, anybody that is not at the center of power and popularity and prestige. And many of us want to know exactly who the least of these are, but for the wrong reason. We want to know who the least of these are so that we can know who the least aren't, so that we can not give to them. Like, if this person deserves to sit at the table by themselves, like, I don't want to invite them. I don't want to be generous when I don't have to be. I don't want to unknowingly give myself because it might be Jesus. And then I find out, oh, that wasn't him. You could have let that person sit alone. You could have let that person be hungry. You could have, right? That's not the spirit of the message. If you are really into the debate, I think it's a fun debate to have. But if you get so wrapped up in who are the least of these, you have missed it. The thing about rumors is that sometimes they take on a life of their own. I've heard a rumor about St. Francis, that this school has a mission that includes equipping students to be people for others. And I was not here when that became a part of this school's DNA. But whoever wove that into the fabric of this school got that right. What if this motto, this theme, this mantra, this mission caught on even more? What would happen if people followed you around, middle schoolers, lower schoolers, and what they found was that you were the first to lead and the first to serve? What if they found that you were the first ones to say thank you to your teachers? What if they found that you were the first ones to clean up after yourselves in the dining hall? What if they found that in the mall you were the group of students that behaved respectfully of others? What if you had that reputation out in the community for giving and leading and serving? What would happen? What would happen if this church were known as the most generous church in town? What if we weren't real picky about who we were generous to? What if that became what we were known for? I heard a rumor this year that St. Francis ninth graders have taken their tradition of cleaning up in the dining hall from the Piney Point campus to the Cooper campus. I heard a rumor this year that there was a middle school student who was sitting by herself, and a group of her peers looked over and saw her and invited her to their table and started asking her about her day. I heard a rumor that some chaplains sent an email looking for ways to support members in the community who are struggling. I heard a rumor that parents have set up meal trains and support systems for grieving families. And the thing about rumors is that they take on a life of their own. There's a rumor circulating through our community that you are people for others. I heard that Jesus was hungry and you fed him. I heard that he was thirsty and you gave him something to drink. I heard that he was a stranger and you welcomed him in. I heard that he was cold and you gave him a warm coat. I heard that he was sick and you cared for him. I heard that he was in prison and you visited him. And I know it's just a rumor. But the thing about rumors is sometimes they're true. Amen.